Man insults Elon Musk on a first-class flight, instantly regrets it when the truth is revealed. You comment below where you're watching from. The air was charged with a sense of urgency as passengers moved through the gates at Los Angeles International Airport. Flight 317 to Tokyo. Narita was set to depart in an hour, and the first-class passengers were beginning to gather. Among them was Oliver Bennett, a man who wore his ego like a tailored suit. Oliver was used to standing out his company. A flashy software startup had recently hit its first billion-dollar valuation. His social media feed was a parade of self-congratulatory posts. Disruption is my middle name. His latest caption read beneath a photo of him holding a glass of champagne. Mr. Bennett, welcome aboard. The flight attendant greeted him warmly, though the forced smile hinted she knew the type. Oliver nodded curtly and stepped into the plush first-class cabin, where each seat resembled a private pod, complete with reclining features and a personal screen. Seat 2A, his home for the next 12 hours. He removed his blazer with a flourish, letting it drape over his seat, and retrieved a set of noise-canceling headphones. A glance at the seat assignment beside him showed it was still vacant. Good. Maybe I'll get some peace for once. Moments later, a figure appeared, slipping into 2B. The man's attire, a plain hoodie and well-worn sneakers, was a stark contrast to Oliver's sharp, tailored ensemble. His face was shadowed by a baseball cap, and he moved with the quiet ease of someone accustomed to blending in. Oliver barely glanced up, typing away on his laptop as the man settled into his seat. Evening. The man offered casually, "Yeah, sure." Oliver muttered without looking. He was too engrossed in drafting yet another tweet to his 500,000 followers. As the cabin door closed and the engines roared to life, Oliver felt a twinge of curiosity. Something about the man seemed oddly familiar, but he couldn't place it. Probably just another tech guy trying to live the dream, he thought dismissively. Leaning back in his seat, the flight attendant walked by, offering champagne. The man declined, opting instead for a bottle of water. Oliver smirked to himself. Water really might as well be in coach, he whispered loud enough for the man to hear. But the man said nothing, simply offering a faint smile as the plane reached cruising altitude. Oliver's natural need to dominate any room or cabin kicked in. He finished his champagne in one gulp, placed the glass on the tray with a clink, and turned toward the man in 2B. "So, what do you do?" Oliver asked, his tone dripping with the kind of interest that wasn't genuine. The man turned slightly, his face still obscured by the cap. "I'm in tech," he replied simply. Oliver grinned. "Ah, same here. Bet we've got some war stories to share." He leaned back and crossed his legs, ready to steer the conversation toward his favorite topic himself. But the man didn't bite. He only nodded lightly and went back to scrolling through his phone. Oliver wasn't used to being ignored. His curiosity morphed into irritation. "No," he began, his voice raised just enough to catch the attention of nearby passengers. "The tech world is full of people who get way too much credit for half-baked ideas. Take Elon Musk, for example. Everyone's so busy calling him a genius, they forget how reckless he is." The man in 2B paused, his finger hovering over the phone screen. But he didn't look up. Encouraged by the lack of response, Oliver continued, "SpaceX. Sure, it's impressive if you like throwing billions at exploding rockets. Tesla overrated, and don't even get me started on Twitter. That whole takeover, a disaster." A faint chuckle escaped from the man in 2B. It was almost imperceptible, but it lit a fire in Oliver. He leaned forward, ready to hammer his point home. "You think I'm wrong?" Oliver challenged. "No," the man said, his voice calm, almost amused. "I think you're passionate." Oliver frowned, unsure if it was a compliment or an insult. "Passionate? I call it realistic. People like Musk, they just ride the wave of hype." Nothing more. A few passengers glanced over, now subtly listening in. Oliver thrived under the attention, mistaking it for admiration. The man in 2B, however, seemed entirely unbothered. "Well," the man said, finally looking up slightly, though his cap still shielded much of his face, Everyone's entitled to their opinion. Oliver rolled his eyes, taking the comment as a dismissal. Yeah, but facts are facts. Musk is a walking PR stunt. People like me, real innovators. We're the ones building the future, not blowing hot air. The man offered a polite smile and went back to his phone. Oliver leaned back, grinning to himself. Another clueless wannabe, he thought little did he know. The calm demeanor of his seatmate was not ignorance. It was restraint. The hum of the engines filled the cabin as the first-class passengers settled into their routines, reading, watching movies, or sipping cocktails. But Oliver was far from relaxed. His annoyance festered as the man in 2B remained quiet, offering only the occasional smirk or short reply to his increasingly pointed remarks. Let me guess. Oliver said, unable to help himself. You're one of those startup guys. Something in crypto or AI, right? Everyone's jumping on those bandwagons these days. The man looked up briefly, his expression unreadable. Not exactly the ambiguity only fueled Oliver's irritation. He thrived on being the center of attention, and Tubi's lack of engagement was an affront to his ego. What's your take on Musk? Then Oliver asked, his voice sharper now. I mean, if you're in tech, you must have an opinion. The man hesitated for a moment, then shrugged. He's done some interesting things. Interesting things, Oliver repeated, laughing. That's the understatement of the century. The guy's a walking contradiction, preaching about saving the planet while flying private jets, hyping up the future of Mars, while barely addressing problems here on Earth for the first time. A flicker of something crossed the man's face. Amusement, perhaps, or mild irritation. But it vanished as quickly as it appeared. Maybe he's just doing what he thinks is best, the man replied simply, his tone neutral. Ah, what he thinks is best? Oliver scoffed. Spoken like someone who's never actually dealt with real-world consequences. It's all theory until you're the one footing the bill. The flight attendant arrived with their dinner orders. Interrupting the tension, the man in 2B ordered a simple vegetarian meal, while Oliver chose the steak medium rare as the plates were placed before them. Oliver noticed how calmly the man ate, as though he had all the time in the world. Must be nice. Oliver muttered under his breath, not having a care in the world. The man glanced at him but said nothing, focusing instead on his meal as the hours passed. Oliver's curiosity about his seatmate grew. There was a quiet confidence about the man, a kind of understated presence that Oliver couldn't quite figure out. He didn't seem intimidated by Oliver's loud critiques or his obvious attempts to bait him into an argument. And then there were the whispers. The flight attendants who passed by seemed to glance at 2B with a mix of curiosity and respect. One even addressed him softly. Let me know if you need anything. Sir Oliver noticed this and frowned. Who is this guy? He leaned forward, pretending to adjust his seat. The man's face was still partially obscured by the baseball cap, but something about his jawline, the way he carried himself, nagged at Oliver as the cabin lights dimmed and the passengers around them settled in for the long haul. Oliver decided to let it go, just some eccentric rich guy. He thought nothing more. He put on his headphones and reclined his seat. Missing the subtle glance his seatmate gave him, a look that hinted at something far beyond what Oliver could imagine, the hours passed, and the cabin remained quiet except for the occasional clinking of glasses and the rustle of blankets. Oliver, now several drinks into his flight, was feeling loose and emboldened. He leaned back, scanning the cabin for any new distractions. His gaze landed once again on the man in 2B. All right, Oliver said, breaking the silence between them. I give up. You've got to tell me what's your deal. You've been sitting there all calm and mysterious. Let me guess. You're some venture capitalist or an eccentric trust fund kid? The man chuckled softly, his eyes not leaving the page of the book. He just opened. Close, he replied. Though he offered no elaboration. Come on. Oliver pushed his voice, carrying a hint of challenge. You can't just sit here like some enigma and not spill a little. The man finally looked up. Meeting Oliver's gaze directly for the first time, his eyes were sharp, observant, and suddenly very familiar. But before Oliver could piece it together, a flight attendant approached their row with an air of formality. Excuse me, Mr. Musk, she said, her voice respectful but professional. The captain wanted me to let you know that your connection in Tokyo is confirmed, and they'll be ready for you upon landing.